What if the version of you that people clap for is the same one that makes your soul ache? What if the applause you receive is just an echo of your own abandonment? What if the praise is masking a deeper betrayal, the betrayal of your truest self? You smile, you nod, you agree, you shrink. You wear the right mask, say the right words, and follow the right script until your real voice is barely a whisper, until you're not sure if you even have one anymore. And when you try to speak, when something real dares to break through the script, it's foreign, even to you. And they love you for it. They applaud your restraint, praise your compliance, and admire your predictability. They see you as strong. When in truth, you're silent, they call you mature, when really, you're suppressing. You've become a masterpiece of emotional camouflage, and the crowd can't get enough. It's almost impressive how well you've hidden your hurt in plain sight, a hurt that festers quietly, eroding your joy one polite nod at a time. But when you're finally alone, when the noise dies down and the show ends, you feel it. That dull, aching emptiness that whispers, "This isn't who I really am." It's more than discomfort. It's a spiritual starvation, a hunger for something real. Not surface-level satisfaction, but soul-level truth. Not validation, but liberation. You've spent so long being what others needed, you forgot what you need. You've mistaken applause for love and validation for self-worth. You've built a life on approval and traded your essence for acceptance. And each time you do, it costs a part of your soul. A cost that piles up slowly until one day you wake up and you don't recognize the person in the mirror. Not just confused, but disoriented, as if you've been living someone else's life entirely. You look at yourself and feel like a stranger wearing your skin. That's not your fault. The world teaches performance. Be likable, be useful, be good, be agreeable, be impressive, but never be too much, never be inconvenient, never be fully, wildly, unapologetically you. Never disrupt the status quo, never unsettle anyone with your fullness. Never rattle the room by bringing your raw truth, because rawness is messy, it's unpredictable, it makes others uncomfortable, and we've been taught that our worth lies in how comfortable we make others feel. But rarely, almost never, are you taught how to be free, how to stop editing your edges just to be allowed in the frame, how to live as the uncensored version of yourself, not the rehearsed one, not the one who smiles on cue, not the one who packages pain into palatable narratives, how to be full of yourself in the best way possible, how to walk into a room without scanning it for approval, how to say no, thank you, without guilt, how to belong to yourself before belonging to anyone else, how to carry your dignity even when no one claps, how to let silence echo after your boundaries and not apologize. So here's the truth. You don't need everyone to like you. You don't need to keep shape-shifting to make people comfortable. You need you to stop abandoning yourself to earn their approval. You need to stop waiting for permission to return to yourself. That's the shift. That's the rupture. That's the exit. That's where your real life begins. Not when they see you, but when you see yourself. Fully, gently, fiercely. When you stand still long enough to hear your own name echo back from your bones. When you let the parts you've buried rise to the surface, not as shame, but as sacred truth. And maybe it starts with one terrifying question. What part of you did you silence just to be accepted? And even more hauntingly, how much longer will you keep silencing it? What would happen if you didn't? What if that version, the unmuted, untamed one, isn't your shame, but your salvation? What if the very thing you thought disqualified you is the thing that sets you free? Let's go back, way back. Before you had a name for the ache, before you even knew it was happening, before it had shape, before it could be spoken out loud. There was a moment, quiet but sharp, when the shift began. Maybe it started in your earliest years, the way your joy was met with disinterest, your pain dismissed as drama, your questions brushed off as inconvenience. Or maybe it crept in more slowly, The way a parent sighed when you expressed too much, the sting of a friend's betrayal that taught you love has terms, the silence that followed your truth. In these moments, you learned a survival code. Being fully yourself isn't just unsafe, it's punishable. Too loud, you learned to hush yourself into invisibility. Too weird, you studied the blueprint of normal and rehearsed every move. Too bold, you swallowed your fire and learned to tiptoe. Too sensitive, you built walls and called them strength. So you began a quiet, merciless war against your own essence. It wasn't loud, it wasn't obvious, it was meticulous, it was brilliant. You sculpted yourself to fit, to be palatable, to avoid rejection. You dulled the shine of your joy, softened your needs until they resembled politeness, starved your voice so it wouldn't disturb the peace. You didn't just adapt, you abandoned, but not out of weakness, out of strategy, out of longing, out of the sacred human need to belong. And it worked, sort of. You weren't just surviving, you were admired. You became the safe space, the glue, the over-functioning achiever who never dropped the ball. You became someone the world could rely on, even if it meant betraying yourself in the process. The edits were subtle at first, like trimming split ends, but edits compound. And eventually the face you see in the mirror is someone crafted, not discovered. You've learned the art of being agreeable to the point of invisibility. You've held everyone together except yourself. You became the one who always shows up, even when no one asks how you're doing. You became the one who smiles through the cracks. You became the one who everyone respects, but no one knows. And inside, that hollowness grows, like echoing footsteps in an empty room. A quiet despair that says, you've done everything right, but you still don't feel real. You said yes so often, the word became a cage. You swallowed your grief so many times, it fossilized in your chest. You silenced your hunger until you forgot you ever had one. You traded your wildness for belonging. You traded your tears for applause. You traded your truth for permission. And what you built looked pristine from the outside until you realized it was a mausoleum. A temple to other people's expectations. A life curated to be admired but never inhabited. And the cruelest twist? You wait. You still wait. Someone, anyone, to say, you're allowed to rest now, you've earned the right to be whole. But that voice never arrives because it was never theirs to give. It's yours. It always was. And let's finally say it plain. You're not tired because life is hard. You're tired because pretending is harder. You're exhausted because you've been living on fragments, on crumbs of acceptance, on borrowed definitions of enoughness. Let's get sharp. You don't owe closure to those who handed you silence. You don't owe grace to those who ignored your collapse. You don't owe warmth to those who only noticed your light when it served them. So stop and breathe. Ask yourself the questions you've been avoiding. Who am I when I'm no longer playing a role? What if I stopped shrinking? Who would I become? If I let the truth erupt from my bones, what would it say? Because real worth doesn't audition. It doesn't bend to fit inside anyone's limited vision. It doesn't decorate itself for display. Reclaiming your worth means shedding the layers, the personas, the polished scripts. It means holding yourself tenderly while the world no longer recognizes you. It means trusting that authenticity is its own safety. And yes, it will terrify you. It will confuse the people who only loved your costume. It will leave you lonely in the best way possible because that emptiness, it's not lack, it's space. It's room for the real you to grow. This is your breaking point. But it's not a collapse. It's a creation where the performance ends and the unedited you begins. This is the part where everything changes, but not through fury, not through vindication or rage or the desperate ache to prove your worth. It changes through something far more piercing, brutal, unfiltered truth that breaks you open, not apart. It shifts through radical self-honesty, through the soul-deep return to the raw, untouched version of you that never needed to be seen to be sacred, never needed an audience to be valid, through the sacred refusal to keep performing a role you never auditioned for. one handed to you in whispers, in glances, in silences that cut deeper than words. This is where you tear off the glittering ribbon of validation that's been clinging to your chest like a badge of survival, a badge you never asked for but carried like armor, not out of pride but out of necessity, out of fear, out of the unbearable quiet that followed your realness being ignored, dismissed, or punished. And in that silence, you hear it, not applause, but breath, your own, steady, alive, unapologetic. You realize that ribbon wasn't a reward, it was a collar, a gilded tether designed to keep you chasing approval, adapting your essence, contorting your truth. A performance trap decorated with just enough praise to convince you it was worth it, until it wasn't. This is the sacred homecoming, where you don't just see your reflection, you reclaim it, undistorted, uncurated, undeniably real. No more grins to soften the truth, no more filters to make it edible for those who never truly tasted you, no more compromises masked as grace. Begin in whispers. Speak the truths you've swallowed so often they hardened into silence. Break the dam. Let it spill. Say no, not just to others, but to your own impulse to shrink, to fold, to yield in the name of peace that never came. Look in the mirror and name one thing about yourself that you value, not because it earns approval, but because it pulses in your marrow. Ask for what you truly need, and this time, let it come unpolished, unpretty, unapologetic. Let it be raw. Let it be yours. You were never meant to be everyone's favorite flavor. You were never meant to be digestible. You were never meant to be easy. You were meant to be true, complex, known, seen in your sharpness and still chosen, but first, by you. So here's your invitation, not to center stage, not to another round of applause, but to your own sacred seat at the table of truth. What part of you have you buried so deep in shame it now visits you in dreams? What voice have you silenced to protect fragile egos and brittle comfort? What truth inside you has been pacing, waiting for the house lights to dim so it can finally scream its name? Let that part rise, let it roar, let it tremble, let it quake the foundation of everything you built on permission. Let it speak, not with elegance, but with fire. Cracked lips, trembling voice, fierce heart. Let it interrupt the performance and dismantle the costume. You're not arrogant for choosing your truth. You're not selfish for no longer burning yourself to keep others warm. You're not too much. You're not too late. You're not behind. You're recalibrating. You're returning. This isn't reinvention. This is excavation. You're peeling off layers not to become someone new, but to unearth the one who always existed beneath applause and assimilation, beneath applause and pretense, beneath the edits. Comment below. I refuse to beg for what I already deserve. If this moved something inside you, don't ignore it. That stir, that ache, that fire, it's not discomfort, it's your resurrection. More truth is waiting for you, more reclamation, more power, more you. Your next liberation isn't waiting in the distance. It's already inside you, breaking through. Click the link, take the leap, reclaim the throne you never needed to ask for. This is your unfurling. This is where the masks don't slip, they shatter. This is where the applause dies and you finally hear your own heartbeat for the first time in years. You're not here to be a gentle ripple. You're here to be wild thunder. And the standing ovation you've been waiting for, it's not out there. It's not in them. It's in you. Give it to yourself. Stand tall and thunder.